Italian culture, while it's beautiful, there's a lot of unspoken rules. There's so much from, when you're supposed to eat and when you eat and drink, or what, the things you're supposed to do, passeggiata after lunch, or there's so many little things that it just took so long to adjust to that, and then fitting in with the people, right? Because I don't speak perfect Italian.
Hey, this is Ermy Pedata from thelanguagerose.com, and if you've ever dreamt of living in Italy, today's episode is for you. You are about to see an interview I did with Cassandra Santoro, founder of Travel Italian Style. She will share with us how she made her dream of living in Italy come true, and also how she managed to learn to speak Italian. Cassandra Santoro is an expert in Italian travel, and she's the CEO of Travel Italian Style, a company that focuses on authentic and inspiring Italian experiences. Cassandra is also a TEDx speaker, and she has been featured on CNN and Forbes. She lives between New York City and Italy and documents her life journey on Instagram at Travel Italian Style. Hi Cassandra, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm well. How about yourself?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for being with us here today, and I look forward to know more about your life, your Italian life.
Thank you. Thanks so much. That means a lot coming from you, as someone was here from here and now in the UK. So thank you.
But let's start from the beginning.
Mhm.
Like when you decided to make your life goal to live in Italy, and how did this decision come about, and why did you decide to make living in Italy like a life goal for you?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I'm going to shorten the story as I think I could shorten it as much as possible, but the idea is basically that I grew up Italian American. My grandparents from Palermo and Canicattì in Sicily, and they really didn't speak English that well ever. But we did not speak Italian because I'm sure you know, and the when the Italians came to America, they wanted to integrate into the culture. So we grew up, having espresso and pasta and eating like an Italian, but it never really hit me that like I had this beautiful culture that was so rare to some Americans. It was very unique to have this like very Italian family. So my father, he sadly passed away from cancer very young in his 40s, and it was his parents, the Sicilian side. And after that, I literally, as cliche as that sounds, I did have a dream about Italy. And I just decided to Google search, this was way back in the day. So I'm going to date myself when I said there was a pop-up on the screen, because I was Google searching so much how to live in Italy, how to work in Italy, and came up an internship in tourism and a little bit of language school. It was like a week of language school, then you could take an internship. So I had just finished college, and as dedication to my father and to find more about our heritage, even though I studied event planning and I was going to be this big New York City marketer and event planner was my dream, I said, before I start, let me just do this trip for my dad in honor of him. Well, there's when my life changed, and I end up liking my job in tourism. And over the years, after that, I came back after that internship, which completely changed my life. And one of the reasons I'm in Sorrento right now, actually, because I started here on my first trips in this tour company.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's like full circle. But yeah, so I kept going back and forth for years, trying to live in Florence, because that's where the internship was. But I was working in Sorrento on the weekends, bringing groups here. So I tried different things over the year, living in Italy full time. And then I would come back to New York. And then I would say, how can I live half the year? And at this time, I was working for other people. So, I think it's been about, it was like 11 years after that, I said, I'm going to start my own tour company from all the things I've learned over the years. And yeah, and then I decided because my business was online, I decided not to purchase an office. I decided I was going to live half the year, and That's the very short story of it, I guess.
Yeah, so at the moment you live half in New York City, half of your life in New York City, and half of your life in Italy, which is like a dream for most people. Because most people, some students of mine, they learn Italian because they travel a lot to Italy, but some of them secretly, or maybe not so secretly, dream to live there. So I think your story is pretty inspiring because it's someone who really went after her dreams, and it looked like you made it happen. So it's great.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't, I always say it's about finding a way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to live full time. So anybody that's listening, I thought full time was the way. And then I realized, you know what? I really love New York City too. So if I can make half and half, so I think it's all about finding, what works for you, but yeah, not giving up, finding the best solution.
Yeah, and also at the same time, as someone who also lives abroad, I know that sometimes it can also be challenging. It may look extremely beautiful. Obviously, it's beautiful that you're making this come true, but at the same time, there might be challenges as well. So, can you tell us any challenge that you had to overcome?
Sure. Yeah, as you said it well, living abroad, there's the obvious things like how do you grocery shop and do things when they're so different? I mean, as you know, the stores in America, we have big stores like Target or Wall, or they're basically superstores where you can get every toiletry, clothes, food, everything. In Italy, I remember first adjusting to different things like that. That was difficult, and then things would close in the middle of the day. And I live in New York City, which is, where things are open 24 hours a day. So
Yeah.
those are the logistical things. But, something that was difficult is the Italian culture, while it's beautiful, there's a lot of unspoken rules, uh, as you know well, and learning those can be challenging. Gosh, I mean, there's so much from, when you're supposed to eat, and, how, you don't, when you eat and drink, or what, the things you're supposed to do, a passeggiata after lunch, or there's so many little things that it just took so long to adjust to that, and then fitting in with the people, right? Because I don't speak perfect Italian, and especially I didn't in the beginning. I didn't speak perfect Italian, so adjusting to the logistical things, the unspoken rules, trying to meet people, but not having that language in the beginning. It really got in my head. It was more me. And then once I just let go, I was like, do I really care if they know I'm American, if I mess up on the rules or if I don't speak? And since then, again, there's always challenges that come up, but I feel like now I look at it differently. Like we're all just trying to make it, we're all just trying to make it happen. So
Yeah, it makes sense. It's true, like what you're saying. Like there are a lot of kind of habits that Italian have. And is there any in particular that you really like or you really don't like?
oh gosh. Okay. So I love aperitivo hour. No, really, besides enjoying a spritz, I like that better than the American culture, because this is going to sound crazy, but working in corporate America, after work, you would go and try to drink 2-for-1 drinks, or and it was about, and I don't want to disrespect my own culture because I participated too, but
Sure.
it was about drinking as much as you can to forget the day, and things like after lunch, like partying and having fun. Aperitivo is more getting ready for dinner, relaxing. And it's these little things. Like I enjoy happy hour in America still. I'm not gonna lie, when I go home, but I do love that things just have more of a relaxing feel to them.
Yes.
I love the cornet. You've probably heard me talk about this every day on Instagram, but I love the cornetti and like coffee in the morning, standing at the bar. I love the bar scene, and the cafe scene, standing there, taking it with the locals, hearing their stories. But Yeah, I mean, I think two of those. The only thing that I don't love, which is not bad, but owning a business here can sometimes be challenging because they say, Cassandra, I'll get back to you. Relax, I'll get back to you in a couple days, and I'm used to the. I'm like, oh, I don't have
Go,
a
go,
couple
go.
days. Exactly. So, but it's a minor problem. I've gotten now. I'm prepared for it. After many years. So
This is exactly what is like the Italian lifestyle. Like everything is kind of compared to the American lifestyle, it's kind of slowed down and much more relaxed. And it's just like, yeah, take it easy.
yeah, exactly. And we need that. And that's why, I do 6 months in New York, pre-pandemic, I was running, running, running. I mean, even I would be at a networking event every night. Then I come to Italy, and especially in the South here, and I'm like, we're good. So
Yeah, I so agree with you. I noticed the exact same thing when I moved here to the UK. After a while, I was like, why people here are always like stressed out in a rush? Just calm down, folks.
exactly.
Uh, so, but for me, obviously, I didn't know, I was not familiar with this lifestyle before I came here. And now that I'm here and I see this every single day, I came to appreciate more the way Italian live.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense, seeing it from the outside now.
All the things that you mentioned, like the fact that we will love to prepare to eat. Like for us, eating is a celebration. It's not just, okay, let's eat and then let's go back to work because I need something in my body that keeps me going, you know. Yeah, so all the things that you're saying completely came to me, but only when I moved abroad. So it's good to hear this from another perspective of someone who is American and now is living in Italy. At the moment, you are in Sorrento?
Yes. So I'm here with all the lemons and the sea.
Yes. Sorrento is a beautiful place. It's actually quite close to where I come from, Naples. So what do you like Sorrento?
Yeah, I love it. I mentioned briefly in the beginning what I used to bring when I got this internship that turned into a job, and
Yes.
how I was able to live in Florence. I would bring university students studying abroad all around Western Europe, but my main trip was the Amalfi Coast, and we'd be based in Sorrento. So when I had to move areas this year, I said, you know what, I want to go back to where it started. I like it. It's like a mini city. It's very convenient. We have the sea, and there's so many different seas and the hikes. I love like Punta Campanella hike and Iranto Bay. It's so beautiful. We did clear kayaks last
Yeah.
week, and yeah, so it's nice, a different lifestyle, but also like a little bit of a nightlife too. So, when the games are on, you could go outside, and there's lots of bars and places to watch. So it's fun.
Yeah, I visited a lot, so it's I know what kind of nightlife is there. It's quite vibrant and it's quite also it's very beautiful, like all the whole like landscape. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice.
I'd like to step back for a second because before you said when I came here I did not speak Italian very well, and now I still don't speak perfect Italian, but still you live there. So can you tell us more about your Italian learning journey?
Yeah, sure. So I have never been one that can learn in a class for
Yeah.
language, for language. I have difficulty with languages. I can't roll my R. It doesn't come easy to me. I'm just, I know it's a weird thing, but I'm sure
No, it's
you
not.
can. R, it's so difficult. But
Sorry, can I
I
just interrupt you on this because this is something that lots of my students say. I can't roll my R's, and so I feel embarrassed and blah blah blah. It's absolutely fine. Also because the sound R, even if you don't do it perfectly, it does not impede the communication because it's not like a sound that if you don't do it 100% like an Italian, it doesn't mean that the other person is not going to understand you. They still do. I'm sure you've noticed because probably you, I guess you speak, to the Italian and they still understand, right? So don't worry about that.
But it's so mental because you want to have like the perfect accent, and
Of course.
but of course to let go of that. But yeah, I tried to take, like, when I did this internship, like a week course, or like when I was a kid in America, we also we take language maybe like a couple of years. It's not very it's not pushed very young, so we take it maybe when we're 14, 15, and then you take maybe one in high school if you want as an elective. So I did take Italian, but I never really did a full out course. So I learned Italian from in the end, from two major reasons. When I was working with the university students, 3 days, 4 days a week, 3 days a week, I would waitress in Florence.
Mhm.
And I found a wonderful woman in the center of Florence who found it amusing that I wanted to, even though I didn't speak perfect, that I wanted to challenge myself, and speak, learn from waitressing. I mean, there were also American tourists and other tourists that spoke English. So I learned, I forced myself to learn, and that's the first way, because if I went up to a table and they didn't speak English, I had to speak. It was a really difficult journey. But from that way, from working over the years with other people in my business, and then ultimately, I once dated a man from Naples for maybe 5 years, and his parents did not speak English. So in the end, I wanted to cook with them and learn from them. And she said, "Listen, I'm in my 70s. I'm not learning English. So let's communicate." And really, I think it sounds strange, but it worked for me. Just communicating.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, but the problem is now I can speak, of course, but I just have to. I'm still working on my verbs because I learned like a little bit of Neapolitan dialect, a little bit of Florentine dialect, a little bit here, a little bit there. So sometimes I don't speak in the perfect, verb tense, but I can have full out conversations in business and in life, which is just for me shocking that I made it happen.
And I like two things about this. So, number one, the fact that you learned by connecting it to something else that you were doing. And so that is what allowed you to learn. So, work, or, in your case, you say you had the Neapolitan boyfriend. So it was because you had to communicate with your family. And so you had a lot of motivation, and that really pushed you through, right? And the second thing that I like of this is that you are aware that even though you're not perfect 100%, you can still communicate, and you're aware, there's I picked up some Neapolitan dialect or some Florentine dialect, but still you can communicate, and that's great.
So it's like, because I think a lot of time, I'm sure you hear this from students, there's two things I used to hear a lot. How do you make time to learn, and aren't you scared? And I said, well, I didn't have time. So what I did was I learned from, like you said, the things I was doing. And of course, sometimes I'm embarrassed or scared, but you don't have time to think about that when you're trying to survive and live, and make money. So it was a good push for me.
Yes, it's very important, because what happens is some people who actually takes lesson, they kind of forget that they need to like learn also outside the lesson, because connecting the language to something that they do, or like the way I like to do it, connect it to someone that you're passionate about or that you really really like, and that's how the language starts to come to life.
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
and so you are more motivated to do it because you see that there is a meaning to it, and at the same time the lessons and all the things that you do around it, they help you to like have that kind of grammar or structure that is correct and stuff. But in the end, like you did, is like it's down to the person to use the language in different kind of ways that are meaningful to them. So I really like that.
Yeah, no, and then the last thing I just want to add is that, yes, and that's one thing I've been thinking about, taking a lesson now that I can converse, for the structure and for writing. So that's where I kind of went backwards, but like you said, it works out perfectly. So
Yes, and it's also good, obviously you need to be self-aware of what works for you and what doesn't. I think you're very self-aware of what works for you and what doesn't really. So it's good to hear like how it happened all to you, like all backwards and stuff. I really like it.
Tried.
Do you have any Italian like favorite words?
I mean, this is also really cliche, but I always liked allora. I don't know. There's just something like so, probably because I remember it used to be a word I didn't know what it meant for so long. So I would just go around and say allora, allora, because it was so happy. Um, yeah, I like allora. I feel like there's another word that I use a lot, even in the wrong context sometimes because I like it so much. It'll probably come to me because now it's so automatic that I
Yeah.
don't even think it, because that's the beautiful thing. Now the language is so automatic to me. I don't focus as much on the words, but I remember specifically allora using it all the time. Like even whenever I could, I loved it so much. So
Yeah, I like that word as well. It's actually one of the words, one of the first words that all my students pick up because when we do lessons, they always hear me saying allora, allora. And you know what's the funny part? Because that's the word that every Italian used to start a conversation or in the middle of conversation, right? So the funny part was that in one of the first classes that I did at the beginning of the year, there was a student called Laura.
oh my God.
And she thought that every time I was saying Allora, I was calling her. And so it was. But then, you know, from the context, she picked up that no, she's not calling me, she's saying a word. And then she actually asked and said, hey, what does allora mean? Because you always say it, but I always think that you are calling me out.
The poor woman, she was at it. She said, "Oh my God, is it? I'm not paying attention. What does she keep calling my name for?" You know, that is, yeah. And it's funny because it's such a simple word, and that's what I mean. It's kind of like nobody really know. I mean, English speakers don't really know what it means, so they're like, "Oh, that's weird." And she says it a lot, but I don't really even understand it. But then once you get it, it's that's a great story, though. Gosh.
Yeah, it was, just found it very funny. But yeah, allora is a great word. Everyone should know allora. Anyways, okay, let's talk about okay, this is, I read one of your blog posts and I really like that you said I do not feel 100% Italian, but I also do not feel 100% New Yorkese. All I know is when I am in both places, I try as much as I can to make it my home.
Mm,
And so my question, I really like this because it really spoke to me as I kind of feel the same sometimes since
mm.
I am in the UK. I've been in the UK for quite a long time now. And now I feel that there is something mine here, but also something mine in Italy.
Mm.
So my question to you is, how do you make a foreign place home?
Yeah, and I'm glad you can relate on this because sometimes it's difficult to explain this to people. They say, "Oh, if you're born in New York or if you spend so much time in Italy,"
Yeah.
but yeah, you know, it's a silly thing, but one of the first things I always try to do is find at least one coffee shop. And I keep talking about food and coffee shops, but really,
Fine. Fine.
obviously,
Speaking
I
to
like
Italian.
food. Maybe I have integrated fully. But yeah, I really love finding a place in the morning where I can start my day and people recognize you and they have a smile. I do that almost every place I go, you know.
Yeah.
And I try to go to the same places. Okay, so my job's a little bit different. I'm here to research. So I have to go to, not have to, I mean it's a beautiful part of my job, but I have to go to like different restaurants and sites and cities and things. But if I always try to base myself at least for like 3 4 months in one place,
Yeah.
so that I can get to know the grocery shopping people, or I try to go to the same grocery stores and I try to make conversation. So I think it's finding a few places that you go to daily or many times in a week that people start to recognize you.
Yeah.
It's a little strange, right? But it works, I
No,
think.
I don't find it strange at all because it's this is how you meet people that you come to see every day, and then eventually those people come to kind of become your family in a way that is in that place.
Exactly. exactly.
So yeah, I like that. And what would you say to someone who is been thinking like would like to live in Italy? Because maybe they're really like, oh, I'd really like to live there, but it seems so big and so difficult. So, what are the first steps that they should take to get started, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think the first step is to a lot of times travelers will ask me, where should I live?
Mhm.
And I say, oh gosh, I don't know you. Thank you for the honor of asking me to choose where you live. But I know I've been to all 20 regions of the country, but we need to talk about this. So I say, if you really want to live there, go spend some time, even if you can't spend several weeks, even if it's a week in a city that you think is going to be a fit. That's number one. Number two, think about the real logistics. I think another thing, sometimes we forget that this isn't vacation where we'll have a private driver or we won't be touring every day. So live in a place that you feel, obviously connected to, but also that's practical for getting around, whether you drive or not drive, and also can have a life and meet people. A lot of times, which is really cute, and I also did this too, but a lot of times I'll hear people say, oh, my dream is to live in the Tuscan countryside in like a beautiful rural village because I know it's very authentic. And I said, but I have to tell you, you may be all alone in these rural villages. So, and no, it's, if anybody has a dream and if that's what they want to do, absolutely. But I say, if you're just moving for the first time and you want to learn the language and you want to work and you want to meet friends, try to go, even if it's a small, like Sorrento, like I said before, is a perfect small city. Florence is still small enough, or be close to one of the cities. But definitely, I think the most important is that you find a place that you're connected to. With social media these days, it's really easy to say, I want to live there because look at this woman's apartment, or look at, look at all the lemons that are in her backyard. I want lemons in my backyard. These are real things we think about when we're
Yes.
saving on Pinterest. And so I say, first, really think about what Italy means to you and
Mhm.
what it is that brings you to that culture and to the culture. And then let it kind of guide you. Start writing down pros and cons of things you want to do, or things you that are must-haves for you where you live, where and start looking at places that work for your for your idea of living. And then test it out. Definitely test it out. I mean, you could definitely just move. That's cool too. But I think, like, why not just, if you have a week to test it out, see if you feel good, then come back and stay 3 months, 4 months, or move for good.
Yeah, so basically take it step by step and explore the options that you have.
I have a blog post I could send to you if you want a link.
Sure.
I haven't updated it, but it's how to live 6 months in Italy. And I kind of go over, it's not like how to get a visa, do this, how to buy a house. It's not that. It's really these sorts of questions, like things to think about before you make the moves. So I can send that to you as well if you want.
Sure, we will link it. If you send it to me, I'll link it in the description below the video so people can go and have a look.
Perfect.
Yes. And this leads me to my next question because I guess people will want to learn more about you and what you do, so where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. So travelitalianstyle.com is our website. And then on Instagram, I'm Travel Italian Style. Then on Facebook, Traveling Italian Style. But also, I'm a co-host of a podcast as well called Rediscover Italy Podcast, where we share some, a different look of Italy from all aspects throughout all 20 regions. So you can find that at Rediscover Italy podcast.com, and all the links. We're also on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. So all the links are on the website for that.
Excellent, and we will put the links below in the description so people can go and find you as well. I just have to say, go follow this girl because she's amazing, and I am from Italy, but I do look forward to her Instagram posts all the time. She has got not only beautiful pictures but beautiful captions, because when you read her stuff, you just feel like Italy all over.
Well, thank you.
So,
That's a huge compliment. So thank
no,
you.
I do, and I have to say, I can tell that you have the connection and with where you are, and it just comes out from what you write.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
If you didn't like that interview, please do not click the like button, or if you did, well, you know what to do. And now, what do you think? Would you like to live in Italy? And if so, which city, town, region would you choose? Let me know in the comments. And this was Ermy Pedata from thelanguagerose.com. And today I'm just here to remind you to always follow your Italian dreams. Ciao!